Guitar intervals, C major, A minor, and related modes. This time focusing in on the G Mixolydian mode, measuring around the central point of the G note located on the third string down from the top of the guitar, otherwise known as the D string, fret number 5, and this is part number 3. Remembering one of our major objectives is to orientate all of our resources in the same direction, making them as easy on the eyes as possible from the perspective of the player of the guitar. Therefore, for example, it's going to look like I'm playing left-handed, but no, we just flip the guitar around to mirror what you are doing from your perspective from behind the guitar. And when we are behind the guitar, we have the fretboard on our left-hand side, the low, the heavy string, the one closest to the ceiling up top. Left to right goes towards the body of the guitar. Similarly, with our Excel worksheet, we have the mirroring of the fretboard in the Excel worksheet, this representing the low or heavy string, the one closest to the ceiling. Top to bottom, left to right being represented as though we took the guitar and just imprinted those strings on the screen. So we're now going to be looking at the intervals. We're focusing in on the Mixolydian mode, remembering that we're just looking at the same shape here. So let's just recap the idea of what we're doing. And we started with the C major, and now we're looking at the related Mixolydian. We're looking at the same shape here, which sometimes people call shape number 1. You might call it a G shaped C major chord position. From a pentatonic standpoint, starting from the A, it sounds like this. If you add the 2 other notes, making it a 7-note scale. So that's often one of the first positions people learn. Now, once I learn that like pentatonic position, one thing people will do is they'll move that pentatonic position around. So they're playing that same shape. And so if you start from A to A, that would be basically meaning you're playing A minor, but then you're switching to G and you'd be playing a G minor because you just shifted that shape, because you know, like an Excel worksheet, the whole shape is shiftable, the relative position moves. That's great. But what we want to do here is look at all of the notes that are in that scale, which is basically, you could call that the A minor scale if you start on the A, or any of the related modes, the related major scale being the C major. And then we want to shift our focus to be changing the focal point within that shape so we can really understand that shape from different perspectives, and we can work on our modes and our intervals all at the same time in an attempt to give us exercises that we can practice and cram in a lot of kind of theory stuff, even if we only have a little bit of time to practice it. So I'm over explaining that here as we kind of try to get these exercises down, but these are things that hopefully we can then take, and possibly, if we just have a few minutes where our mind is working, or like 15 to a half hour when our mind is working, we can work on these types of things possibly and get as much out of a theory kind of practice session as basically possible. So remember that when we're thinking about like scales, we can memorize them a few different ways. We can memorize the shapes. That's what I started doing in my mind from a perspective of an accountant, right? It's a spreadsheet. I can move the spreadsheet. That was always interesting to me, the fact that the relative positions will remain the same, and you've got these cool shapes that you can basically maneuver around. How do I know which shape goes with other shapes when I'm trying to play something that sounds halfway decent? So that's good, but we can also basically measure it with what I would call the formula, the whole, half, whole, half thing, which we usually memorize from the standpoint of the C major. To me, that's one of the least useful ways to kind of think of it when I'm actually playing, possibly because I haven't mastered it yet, right? But that's because if I'm playing like in the Dorian or even in the minor, you might not know the formula as well. So if I'm counting it up by formula, it's a little bit wonky. And in a guitar, to count up by formula, you have to know the distance between the 2 strings. There's a 5-note distance between every string except between these 2, where you've got that 4-note distance. So if you know those things, I think that formula could be quite useful. It's possibly something I can work on more. What I'm finding to be more and more useful is to memorize the basic interval type shapes. And we can do that because that allows us to shift between the modes quite nicely. So if I'm on the C, I can basically recreate the shape from the C by measuring the intervals from the C. I can go to the D and then recreate this same shape from the position of the D, which means that I would be playing in D Dorian if I had the same shape. Now I could do the shapes for the Ionian, and I would build a different shape by interval from here. But what I want to do is work on this same shape and really reiterate this shape, but then think of it from a different focal point, meaning we're looking at it from different angles. The E would be the Phrygian. We'll make the same shape, and now we're working on the Mixolydian. So that means that what we want to do basically is learn the intervals for the major. The major is basically our key, our home space that we compare everything to, and then we can break out what we might call the major chords and minor chords from a very practical standpoint. If you're playing in the C major, we can learn that the 1, 4, 5 are major chord constructions. The 2, 3, and 6 are minor chord constructions, those being distinguished and identified by the third, either being a major third or a minor third. And then we've got the Locrian has a minor third and a flat fifth. That's kind of like the weird one. So that's very practical from a musical type of standpoint. A little bit more difficult for us to then move to a Dorian mode, however, and then think about, well, which of the notes in the Dorian mode are going to build a major or minor chord construction, because our mindset is based on the major scale. So what we would like to do is possibly orientate the major scale or all the other modes to the major scale, possibly giving a numbering system, an absolute numbering system, which I'm going to do here, related to the major scale. So I'm going to say the Dorian's a 2, the Phrygian's a 3, the Lydian's a 4, the Mixolydian, our focus here is a 5, Aeolian 6, and then 7. And so then if I'm in the Dorian, we're just going to shift that D to the first. So now it's the same notes, but I'm going to call it the 1. And if I know that the Dorian is absolute mode number 2 because it's the second note in relation to the major scale, I can know at least that it should have a minor chord construction or is a minor mode defined by the fact that it has a minor third. And then I can try to count from the Dorian and use a little bit of math, if I know that's the second, to figure out the related positions of the Phrygian, the Lydian, the related positions, which could help me to compare them to the C major, to then think about whether I build a major or minor chord from it. So the smoother we get at that, the better we'll be able to move from a major scale to a minor scale to a Dorian scale, and so on and so forth. So that's what we'll do here. Now note, the cool thing about doing that is that when I look at any of the other modes, there's only one interval difference when you compare it to the relative major or minor modes. If we break out all the modes into either a major mode or a minor mode, and then we compare the mode to its relative major or minor scale, then there's only going to be one interval difference. So if I learn the major mode and then I learn the minor mode, which is also the Aeolian, then all of the other modes, all I have to really do from this interval standpoint is learn the one interval that is different between its related major and minor. So we're going to be working on the Mixolydian, which we can call basically the 5 note, which would be a fifth chord construction from the perspective of the C, and we know that the 1, 4, 5 builds a major chord and therefore also is a major mode. So when I look at the major scale, we have a perfect first, we have a 2-note away major second, a 4-note away major third, a 5-note away perfect fourth, a 7-note away perfect fifth, a 9-note away major sixth, and 11-note away major 7. Let's go down to the Mixolydian now. I'm just going to make the 5 the 1. So I'm still going to call the Mixolydian the absolute mode number 5 in my terminology, which might not, that's kind of a me thing, but I think it's practical. And that means that I know that it's the 5th of its related major scale, which is useful, but I'm going to make it the 1 when I think of the Mixolydian, which is going to be the G. So we're now on G Mixolydian, and remembering that it has one distinctive interval, that being the 7th, and that this Mixolydian is the one that you could kind of associate with the blues scale. And I think the blues kind of scale especially in the major blues, is one of the more confusing things to think about because, again, people go after it from different perspectives. So you can, they think about it from different angles, which is cool because then you'll end up doing different things. And part of the problem with it is that you're kind of shifting between modes in essence. You're not exactly in one mode. You're kind of blurring the line. You're kind of doing a little bit of walk in there. It's kind of like if you're doing poetry and you're trying to basically make something that aligns perfectly to the meter that you are in. And that sounds good, but it sounds very structured. But then if you kind of walk it out, you go out of the lines a little bit and you twist it a little bit, then it's going to sound a little bit more wonky, which is actually kind of cool as long as you're still within the range. You don't go too far out. So the question is how wonky can you make it before it's too wonky? Similarly, if you're constructing a house or something like that, you want it to be structurally sound, but you might like that old-fashioned kind of look as though it's a cabin that's been there for ages and whatnot, and it looks a little wonky. The things aren't exactly straight. You don't got straight wood lines. You got crooked timbers in there, and you've got a fireplace that has rocks that are all jagged in there and whatnot. And it's like, that's weird. Why wouldn't you put bricks in it? And so on. And bricks would be cool, but the rocks are kind of nice because they're a little wonky. Is it structurally sound? Well, then it's cool. Then you're good to go. So that's similar here, right? So we've got the major 7. The 10 note away minor 7, which is what you would normally see in a minor scale, and then you can kind of add the major 7 as you walk in going home, and you also have the major 3rd, but you can kind of play with the minor 3rd and as a sliding tone to kind of give it again a little bit of wonk, a little bit outside the scale system. Remembering that when you're thinking about the major blues, people might think of it as like they're just going to take the pentatonic shape and then twist the note, which is so it twists into the major. So the C here might be twisted up basically, and the C here is going to be twisted up, which is interesting because then you can kind of think as though you're in like the same pentatonic shape here, and then also back here, right? Or if you're in, I don't want to get into that. If you're in like a major, blues or something. But you can also think like you're in a major scale, and then you're just saying, I'm basically playing a major, in this case C major, but then I'm just adding the 7th, flattening the 7th. So people just say, okay, I'm kind of like in a major scale, but I'm flattening the 7th. Now you also have the problem of, well, what if I go from the 1 to the 4 to the 5? What you're really doing when you go to the 1 to the 4 to the 5 from a blues standpoint is you're actually shifting the entire, one way you could think of it, shifting the entire Mixolydian mode, because the 4 and the 5, you're still playing the dominant 7, which is kind of, again, weird. That's a little wonky, right? Because normally it wouldn't fit in the 1, 4, 5, right? So you're doing all these things that are kind of outside the normal structure of the scale, which gives it, that feel kind of. And so you can think about that from different perspectives because, again, it doesn't exactly fit anywhere is the thing. But of course we can think of ourselves as in Mixolydian, which means that mode, of course, in it has the flat 7. So that's going to be the idea. Again, I'm playing in G Mixolydian because we're relating it to what I know best, which is the A minor scale, which is we can also think of as the C major relative to the C major scale. So that might not be the most popular blues, but for a major blues, but it gives you that reach. So if you can reach up here to this on this part of the guitar, you'll be able to do it easier on this guitar part of the guitar. So I think it's a really good place to practice with. So that's the general idea. So the Mixolydian has a perfect first, a 2-note away major second, same as the major scale, 4-note away major third, a 5-note away perfect fourth, same as the major, 7-note away perfect fifth, 9-note away major sixth, and then of course that flattened 10-note away minor 7. All right, let's go through them. We left off last time on the 7-note away perfect fifth, remembering the perfect fifth is the same typically for most major modes and minor modes and that's going to be our power chord. And so that one's really useful. We're going to go over it whenever we do all the modes. Then we're going to see it coming up multiple times because it's in most of the modes, which is good because we really want to learn that one. And the power chord is really useful because it's kind of ambiguous. So for example, if I was in the Mixolydian mode and I'm like, okay, I know all the notes that I'm in here because I know it's related to the major scale or the A minor, and I know that, or I know the C major. So I know all the notes, but maybe I can't remember whether I build a major or minor chord from all of the notes. Well, I can usually be pretty safe that I can add the fifth because the fifth is ambiguous. It has no third. The third is the distinguishing factor between a major and a minor. So I could basically say, well, I can always just add a fifth and do a power chord. And so that's great unless you hit the Locrian, right? The Locrian is the funny one with the flat fifth. Okay, so that's going to be the idea. So if we're here and I want to go up, then, well, let's take the fifth out here first. It's a 7 note away. Now, note 7 notes away is going to be way up here. So what am I going to do? Instead of going up, that's too far to reach, I'll go behind it, which means I take the inverse distance. So 7 notes away, 12 minus 7 is 5. So if I go behind that, then it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back to the open D. So here, going back to the open D, if I went from D to G, that would be a 5 note away, which would be a perfect fourth. But if I go from G to D, that would be a 7 note away, perfect fifth. Okay, so then let's go up here. Also just realize that the perfect fifth, of course, doesn't have a different name because it's an odd, it's an odd, and we skip every other one from chord construction perspective. So whether we're thinking of it as the interval related to the scale or related to the chord constructions, it's still going to be the 7 note away perfect fifth. Okay, if I go up one string, it's going to be an inverse distance because I'm going up. So that means if it's a 7 note away perfect fifth, 12 minus 7 is 5. One string up because there's a 5 note distance between the strings except between the B and the G, or depending on which way you go, then it's going to be right above it on the same fret. So if I count it up here, it's just going to be here to here. So if I went from top to bottom, D to G, that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth. But if I go from bottom to top, G to D, that's a 7 note away perfect fifth. Therefore, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always, if I go up one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which could only happen on the B string because there's the fault line, in which case this tectonic plate shifted to the right, and therefore when I go up one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be back one fret. So the 7 note away perfect fifth is all, if I go up one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth is always on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case if I go up one string and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be one fret back. All right, and then if I go up two strings, we're looking for the 7 note away perfect fifth. So we have to take the inverse distance. 12 minus 7 is 5. So it would be, I'm going to say -5, -10, 9, -9, -8, -7, -6, -5. Let's count it up here. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -9, 8, -6, -5. So boom, top to bottom from that D to the G. Well, that's not right. That's not it. It would be -5, -10, -9, -8, -7, -6, -5. There's the D. So top to bottom would be a 5 note away perfect fourth, and therefore bottom to top, 7 note away perfect fifth. Therefore, if I go up two strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets out, which is about as far as I can reach while still touching both notes if you have a normal hand size. And so unless you cross the fault line, which I'm going to do on either the B or the E string. So if I was on like this G and I went up two strings, it would be over here. So now it's only 1, 2, 3, 4 frets away. So if I go up two strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be 5 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which is going to happen on the bottom B and E strings, in which case if I go up two strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. Okay, so then let's go down a fret. This is possibly the most common directionality power chord shape. So we've got, it would be 5, 6, 7. So if I count it out here, down 5, 6, 7, boom, boom. So there we have that. So if I go down one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which could only happen on the G string, in which case, because this tectonic plate shifted forwards, it's going to be further out. So the 7 note away perfect fifth is always going to, if I go down one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth is always 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, in which case if I go down, if I go down one string, the 7 note away, and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth is 3 frets forward in that case. So let's do the next one. We're going to go down to here. So now we're going to say down 2 strings and crossing the fault line. So it's going to be 5, and then I have to cross the fault line this way, 10, 9, 8, 7. Let's count it up here on the guitar, down 5, and then crossing the fault line, 10, 9, 8, 7, right there. So that means if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth is 2 frets back. What if I don't cross the fault line? I wouldn't cross the fault line going down 2 strings if I was either on the E or the A string. So let's pick this G right here, for example. And if I go down 2 strings, I would be over here. So if I go down 2 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets back unless I cross the fault line, in which case if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will only be 2 frets back. Now this position hopefully looks a little familiar down here because you can add the third right there, and it gives you, that's a nice way to play just the triad, and then you could play the D on top, which looks like that, which is a common way people might see it as an F note shape, but it's really, if you play the whole thing, it's an E, shape bar chord that we're playing the bottom bit from a caged system perspective. But in any case, let's go on to the next one. Let's move on. We've got 3 to go through this time. We have no time for dilly-dallying over here. So we're going to go to the next one. If I go down 3 strings, we go 5, and then shift up here 10, and then 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. Let's count it out this way. So we're here, 5, and then shift up to 10, and then 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So from here to here. And we can also count it by saying, well, would it be easier for me to get to the top string and then just mirror it at the bottom because they're the same tone? We could, but if I go up, then of course we have to think inverse distance. So 7 note away perfect fifth, 12 minus 7 is 5. A distance of 5 would be 5, or negative 5, negative 10, negative 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Boom. Same thing on the bottom string. So if I go down 3 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1. If I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward. What if I don't cross the fault line? It would only happen on the top string, that I can have room to go down 3 frets without crossing the fault line, unless I go around the top of the guitar, which we're not thinking about right now. Then if I go up 3 strings, 1, 2, 3, it would be here. So if I go down 3 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, in which case if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 5 frets forward. Okay, so then let's do the next one. Move it on down to the 9 note away major 6. So the major 6, it's going to be 9 notes away. The 6 represents the 6th position in our scale. The 9 represents the absolute number of notes taking half steps as our major unit of measure. So, okay, before I do though, let's do a joke here. Quick joke. This is not good. None of them are good. We know it's not good. You don't have to say that. Okay. So, dude, my band totally threw me for a loop, man. My band threw me for a loop. Can you believe it? If they would have asked me, I would have given them a loop, for crying out loud. If they really wanted a loop, they could have just asked me. But no, they had to throw me for a loop, for crying out loud. A Fruit Loop. Beyond that, they threw me just for a Fruit Loop. I don't even think it was a cherry flavored Fruit Loop either. They threw me for a non-cherry flavored Fruit Loop. But the joke's on them though, because I hear that JFK Jr., our new HAGA health person in the government, says that those things will kill you, man, those Fruit Loops. So take that. Hope you enjoy your Fruit Loop that you threw me for. Okay. That was not good. Let's go back to the next. Let's go to the next one. We're on a 9. So we know that this is the 6th over here. So if I count this up, that's an even one. So we got the 1, 3, 5, 7. And then the 9 equals the 2. The 11 equals the 4. And the 13 equals the 6. So we can say that we're looking at the 9-note away major 6 from a chord construction. If we think of it not in terms of octaves, but everything in a circle kind of, then we can also say that's equivalent to say that we're looking at a 9-note away major 13th from a chord construction standpoint. Okay, so then we're going to say if it's 9 notes away, I can't really measure this way because that's too far to finger. So I look for the inverse distance. 9-note away major 6 has an inverse distance of 12 minus 9, which is 3. So if I go back 3, there's the 9-note away major 6 or 9-note away major 13. So back 3. So if I played from E to G, that would be a 3-note away, which would be like a minor third. But if I play from G to E, that would then be the inverse 9-note away major 6. Let's go up a string and say if we go up a string, we're looking for that E. So if I go up, I have to look for the inverse distance. Wait, I need the orange one. This is supposed to be the orange one, man. So the inverse distance of a 9-note away major 6 is 12 minus 9 or 3. So -5, -4, -3. Let's count it up over here. -5, -4, -3. So from top to bottom, well, wait a second. I went the wrong way. -5, -5, -4, -3. So from top to bottom, E to G, that would be a 3-note away minor third distance. But if I go from bottom to top, G to E, that's going to be a 9-note away major 6, therefore. So if I go up one string, the 9-note away major 6 will always be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which could only happen on the B string, which is right there, in which case the 9-note away major 6 will only be 1 fret forward. So let's go to the next one. Let's say we go up to the next string and we're looking for the E might be back here. So that's going to be, I'm looking for a 9-note away major 6. I'm going above it, therefore inverse distance. 12 minus 9 is 3. So -5, -10, and then 10, 11, 12, or 0. There's back to 0 or 12, and then let's say 12, 11, 10, 9. Let's count it this way. So I'm going to go 5, 10, and or -10, 11, 12, octave, 12. Wait a sec. What did I do? What did I do here? 5, 10, 12, and then I went backward. Let me count it again. Sorry about that. -5, -10, 11, 12, or 0. And then 1, 2, 3. That makes sense. So -5, -10, 11, 12, or 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I go from top to bottom, E to G, that would be a 3-note away minor third. Bottom to top, therefore, is a 9-note away major 6. So if I go up 2 strings, the 9-note away major 6 will always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back, unless I cross the fault line, which would happen either on the B or the E string. Let's take a look at this G right there. And if I go up 2 strings and we go back, we're over here. It's going to be a further distance because this tectonic plate shifted forward. So if I go up 2 strings, the 9 note away major 6 will be 5 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which happens on the B or the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 9 note away major 6 will be 6 frets back. Right, 1, 2, 3, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Okay. So let's go down below and say we went back down here. So if I go below the note, we're going to say it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can count it up just normal. So we're going to say here we are. We're going to say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. So if I go down 1 string, the 9 note away major 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen only on the G string, in which case if I go down 1 string, it'll be out further because this tectonic plate shifted out. So if I go down 1 string, 9 note away major 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, in which case if I go down 1 string, the 9 note away major 6 will be 5 frets forward. Okay, and then let's do the next one down. So now we're going down 2 strings and crossing the fault line. So it'd be 5 and then 10 back to 9 for the 9 note away major 6. So let's do that here. So it'd be 5 and then 10 and then back 1 to 9. So it looks like a shape that should be like a D, that should be like a minor 7, but no, because we crossed the fault line. So that means that if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 9 note away major 6 will be on the same fret. If I don't cross the fault line, which would happen if I go down 2 strings here or here on the E or A string, then like here, for example, if I go down 2 strings, it would be back 1. So normally, if I go down 2 strings, the 9 note away major 6 will be 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line, in which case if I go down 2 strings, the 9 note away major 6 will be on the same fret. So let's do the next one here. All right, let's go down another one. So if I go down, so we're going to go down here. Okay. So if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, we're going to say we have 5 and then 10 up here and then 15. 15 can be going, 15 minus 12 is 3, 2, 1, 0, or 12, back to the octave, 12, 11, 10, 9. So let's count it out here. So I can go 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 2, 1, 0. There's the octave, or 12, 12, 11, 10, 9. So from here to there, boom. So if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 9 note away major 6 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. We can also count it going up. So I could have said, well, what if I find this one? It might be easier because there's only 2 strings up, but I have to look for the inverse distance. Therefore, I would have to say 9 note away major 6 has an inverse distance of 12 minus 9, which is 3. So that would be, once again, negative 5, negative 10, and then 11, 12, octave, or 0, 1, 2, 3. And so that mirrors down here as well. Okay, so let's just move on to the next one here because we're running along. We got to do the big one. This is the important one, for crying out loud. Quick joke before that one, just to get them done here. You know, I've been practicing to become a superstar. But for some reason, all the feedback I get seems to just say that I'm a superstar hole, which I don't feel like is the same thing. They added another word. I'm supposed to be a superstar, but they keep calling me a superstar hole. It's not the same, I don't feel like. Anyways, let's go to the next one. we're going to go down to the 10 note away minor 7. Okay, so then that one is going to be an odd, so it's going to be the same from measuring it this way as our chord construction, which would be the 1, 3, 5, and then it's not part of our normal triad, but it still at least lines up with our normal chord construction, where it's the odd note, and so it's the 7th, meaning it's the same as it's the 7th note in our scale. So that makes sense at least. That's helpful. All right, so let's say, so this is the big one. So it's a 10 note away minor 7. So normally for a major mode, it would be an 11 note away major 7. So that means that if I look at the minor 7 for this F, for example, normally all I have to do then to convert this from a G Mixolydian, which is a major mode, to the actual major mode, the Ionian mode, in other words, is just shift this F to here. That's all I would have to do. And so that's one way that you can kind of shift the shapes in our mind. So notice that would come up with a whole different shape here. So you could think about it shape-wise and say, well, what shape would be built if I didn't play this G, but I played this G? And then you can name that with like your numbering system, or you can name it with a caged system if you want to. Or you can just say, look, I'm just looking at everything from this shape because I know this shape, and then I'm just shifting whatever interval I need to in order to shift it to the related, major scale, right? So that's what we're doing here. So that, and notice again, that's really a neat way to do it because it will lead you to play a little bit different than if you just try to shift the entire shape in your mind, and it really helps you to focus in on that one different interval in like a different way. And you can do that with all of the related modes. So you're playing this one shape, you have all of these modes in this shape, and I can convert any of these modes this way to its related major or minor mode, right? So I can convert the Mixolydian by just shifting one interval to the G major. I can convert the Aeolian, which is the minor scale. Well, that's basically the minor scale. It's already there. The Locrian I can't do much with because it's a weird one. The Ionian is the major scale. I can't do much with that. But the Dorian, I can convert the Dorian, which is a minor mode, by shifting one interval to the related D Dorian to a D minor. The Phrygian is a minor mode. I can take the E Phrygian, which has all the same notes, and convert it with one shift of an interval to an E minor, right? And then the Lydian is a major mode. So the F Lydian, I can convert the F Lydian by shifting one interval to the F major. Now it's not always going to be the 10th. I have to determine which interval is different. But once I do that, that's one way that you can just. I don't have access to every different shape that way, but that's one way you can kind of expand what you're doing. And then once I'm on any of these other modes, right, if I converted this D to a D minor rather than a D Dorian, then I can think, well, what are all the other modes that are relative to the D Dorian? If I converted this Phrygian from an E Phrygian to an E major, then I can think about all of the other modes that are, to an E minor, then I can think about all the other related modes to an E minor. If I convert the Lydian, the F Lydian to an F major, then I can say, well, all of the other what are all the other modes that are relative to, right, the F major? Similarly with the Mixolydian, if I convert the Mixolydian here from G Mixolydian to G major, then I can think, well, what are all the other modes that are relative to the G major that just have that one note kind of difference? And then I can shift my focal points and so anyway, enough of that. So that means that we're going to be here. So let's do this. And this is one of the ones that we can kind of play with. When we were on the third, we kind of shifted the third up a little bit. Like you can kind of shift it from the third up. You can kind of do this here with this bluesy note here, but possibly more intentionally whenever you're moving home. So whenever I'm going home, you might hear this sound, right, where I'm on like this is the F. sound, possibly, depending on what you listen to. So let's so that means that so let's start this. So if I go up, it would be 10 notes forward, but that's too far. So I'm going to look for the inverse distance. So I'm looking for a 10 note away minor 7. 12 minus 10 is 2. So if I go 2 back, that would be it. So from this F, if I went from this F to the G, that would be a 2 note away, which would be a major second. But then if I go from G to F, that would be a 10 note away minor 7. And again, whenever I play that, I'm going to like, okay, how can I fudge it a little bit? How can I add the wonk maybe to emphasize the wonkiness, man? The wonkiness. So I could kind of slide up past that one maybe, you know, or do that roll. So sometimes you could do this and then to get that leading tone home. So anyways, you can play with that in multiple ways. Let's go up a string and say if I go up a string, I'm looking for the 10 note away minor 7. I have to look for the inverse distance. Let me just find it first. So we have to look for the inverse distance. So a 10 note away minor 7, if I go up, has an inverse distance of 12 minus 10, which is 2. So it's -5, -4, -3, -2. Let's count it up over here. So -5, -4, -3, wait a sec, yeah, -2. So if I go from top to bottom, from F to G, that would be a 2 note away minor major second. Therefore, from bottom to top would be a 10 note away minor 7. 10 note away minor 7. Now, where's the major 7 is going to be here. So we could kind of slide that. So, right, some here. So I'm ending it on this G, because it's leading to that G, or you can try to lead it. There's, you know, kind of try to, you know, blur the line there a little bit, blur the line. And then we're going to say, what if I go up 2 strings? It's going to be here. So it's going to be, all right, if I go up 2 strings, I'm still looking for the inverse distance, which is going to be 12 minus 10 is going to be 2. So it's going to be -5, -10, -11, -12. That brings me back to the octave, which could also be 0. And then -1, -2. So let's count it up here. So we're going to say -5, -10, -11, -12, octave, or 0, 1, 2. So boom. So top to bottom from this F would be a 2 note away major second. Therefore, bottom to top would be a 7, would be a 10 note away minor 7. Hopefully I'm saying minor 7. And then again, I can kind of say, well, could I play with that one? Like if I was just up here, there's the major 7. So again, you could do that same rolling whenever you find. And you could try to do it while you're doing down here. I don't really do that much, but you could try to. So let's go down a string. So then if I go down a string, we're looking for this one here. So now I'm going down a string. So we're going to go, this is going to be 10 note away minor 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hopefully I'm always saying minor 7 here. I might have messed that up. I'm like getting scared that I'm messing up here, but hopefully I'm not confusing anyone too much. This is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boom. So that means if I go down one string, the 10 note away minor 7 is always going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which is going to happen on only the G string. So then it's going to be just out of reach over here. So if I go down one string, this is a common one. It's going to be the 10 note away minor 7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, in which case, which can only happen on the G string, if I go down one string and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets forward, making it kind of just out of reach. And then, but here, this is where the stretchiness comes into play, because notice that this is what I call my 3 pillars, like from here, but then it got shifted up to here, to here, but you have the two kind of that you can play like this, right? And then so that you have that kind of stretchy thing, and then that leads to the shuffle pattern, which is like this. So I usually try to play it with this finger over here, my middle finger, if I'm trying to stretch out here to my normal shuffle pattern, which would be that E, which is the 6. But then you can add the 7, which is pretty long reach. That's why when you play it up here, same thing, right? That's a pretty long reach, like right there, you know. But I'm playing it at almost the hardest place to play it on this G, right? We could be playing an F Mixolydian, that would be harder. But this is pretty hard. That's why the A that's one reason I think playing in the key of A might be more common and the key of E might be more common. But again, if you can stretch your fingers to reach this, and you can, because then you can play it like this. Instead of playing it like this, like my power chord like this, which some people can do, but you can see my finger, the way my hand is shaped, isn't quite big enough, you know, to do that. This wants to be out here. So if I play it like this, which I see other people doing, it's not just me. Like, I mean, then you can reach out here. So you can basically do it, and if you can do it there, then you should be able to do it here on the A. And of course you should be able to do it down here on the G. So that's pretty cool. And then with this, you can't really reach from here, or I can't, to kind of fudge it out to here. To get to the major 7, you could. Back to the power chord. Possibly, but you can see that if I was on this F, I can always roll it forward to that G with our normal kind of. Which sounds kind of cool. Anyway, I feel like maybe people could disagree with that. I think that's a cool sound. Let's go down 2 strings and cross the fault line. So it's going to be 5 and then 10 up here as we cross the fault line. So let's count it up over here. So it's going to be here 5 and then 10. So if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 will be up 1 fret. If I don't cross the fault line, which would happen on either the E or the A string, and I go down 2 strings, it would be on the same fret. So if I go down 2 strings, the 10 note away minor 7 is on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which is going to happen on either the D or the G string as my starting point, in which case if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1 fret forward. So that's kind of on this shape here. It's kind of interesting because you have your 5th. If I play my normal chord, my 5th is right here, and then my 3rd is down here. So you can kind of play This is the D shape. But oftentimes, or you can play the full D shape, like the D shape you might recognize as that. That's pretty difficult to play. So a lot of people kind of fudge it by playing it like this. A lot of people, meaning I fudge it by playing like that. But if you do that, then you can also add you can also add this right here, which gives you that 7. So that's cool to have. And then you can go back to this. And then again, of course, here's the third. You can kind of mess around with the third to the minor third and the major third. But you can also maybe mess around with this 7. There's the minor 7 to the major 7, and then here's the G again. So. If I was just on that 7, there's that same sound. So the question is, can you work that into like a chord maybe? So I'm just walking it up while trying to strum this one. Anyway. You're running long on time, man. You're pulling too much time here. We need to move on. You're breaking your own rules. Breaking your own rules, man. All right, so if I go down 3 strings, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 2, 1, 0. Back to the octave for 12, and 12, 10, 9. So we can go, this is going to be 5, 10, 15, 15 minus 12 is 3, 2, 1, 0. There's the octave, or 12, 12, 12, and then 11, 10. Boom. Hopefully I counted that correctly. I feel like I messed something up, but yeah, that's right. All right, so that means if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back. Now if I don't cross the fault line, which would happen on like the top string, which is out of here it is way over here, and I go down 3 strings, then it would be 1, 2, 3. The F would be here, shifted up 1. So normally if I go down 3 strings, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. It'll be easier because this got shifted up. If I go down 3 strings and I cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back. And again, obviously down here you've got your same little pattern. So you could try to work that in here. Kind of muddied because I'm playing the G here, the G here. So anyways, it is what it is. Let's try one more joke and we'll close this thing out. This one has to do with so it's not supposed to be offensive or anything, but sometimes people take offense to these type of things. So, but I wrote it down here. So let's see what we got. You know, after David became king, and smote all of his enemies, he was like talking to God and was like, he was doing it while he was painting an image of a house, and he was saying like, you know, God, now that I've secured my kingship, I'll make a temple for you. But then God, while looking at the somewhat structurally unsound house that David was painting while they were talking, was like, no, David, you've done quite enough, you know, with the fighting and everything. You know, I hereby declare that your son Solomon should be building my temple. You know, because he wasn't drawing very good. That wasn't even a joke. I don't even know what that was. I don't